not going to make every single program, you're not going to make every kilometre that you say you're going to.
I think I've probably kept as much in as I've gotten out of, like fucking leaking.
The furthest that we're going to have to run in one sitting is marathon distance. Right. It's nice, isn't it? It's proper country, isn't it? It's like, at least Colin Firth got to emerge with a wet t-shirt coming straight out of a nice lake. Just emerged from a boggy swamp. One gets asked about resilience a lot, and I think that mind setting is a really powerful tool to use in the facilitation of resilience sort of thing. And what I mean by that is resilience in and of itself is a broad topic and a very, in my opinion, very multifactored one. Mind setting is quite straightforward in the sense it's very much a tool that you can use and apply to stuff in and of the day-to-day. What I mean when I say mind setting is basically very, very straightforward, and it is really like having that conversation with yourself in terms of, this is what I'm going to do, and very much setting your mind into the modality of getting that task done. But I think you can apply it beyond just a simple task that's sat right in front of you. So I think that it's a very powerful tool for helping set yourself on course towards a big long-term goal. But it's also something which can be really useful in terms of just getting you through to the end of a training session or something. When we came out today, we had sort of had that discussion around, what do you want to do today, blah, blah, blah. And actually, in having that conversation around what is it you want to do today, you make that agreement, in our case with each other, but also with yourself, that it's like, right, when we go out today, we're going to do between 10 and 12 kilometres, depending on what the weather's doing, depending on what the route's doing. But that's the aim of today. And I think that having that, that mental, that verbal contract with yourself, I mean, if you've got a training partner, it's why that in and of itself is such a useful tool, because, you're not just, you're not just sort of letting yourself down or failing yourself if you don't do what you said you were going to do. You're letting your oppo down as well. So what I tend to do with mine, and it's why I do a lot of spreadsheet work and a lot of programming with my training, because what I do is I say, right, this is my end goal, this is what I want to achieve. So very practical example, 50 marathons, 50 states, 50 days. So I know that by that point in time, I need to be able to do, X, Y, and Z, whatever training goals I've set myself. But I need to be able to achieve that prior to undertaking that expedition. So what I do is I literally put, a date in the spreadsheet. Right, this is today, and you literally just draw the big box down, fill in all the dates in between, and then you do your program. But if you work backwards, then you know where you need to be at any given time and what you need to be getting done of your training program. So it allows you to build it up. I work in 4-week blocks for running. So every 5th week, I'll give myself it's a rest week, but it's basically you do half distance. So when you get near the end, you're still doing a significant amount of distance. You're just giving yourself that bit of recovery. In my case, what I literally do is say, right, I've got, 9 or 10 months to work towards this thing. of, you know, I want to peak doing this, and I'm going to work backwards so that I can have a really nice, steady, gradiated approach. But if I need to be here at this period in time, then this is what I need to do this week. And I think that by drawing it out for yourself and just visually showing, you know, that allows you to not only say, right, I've got this long-term goal and I'm now dialing in on that, and yes, we're a long way out, but there is a lot of work to do. So I need to be, you know, starting to dial in even now. But it also means that you've got that, you know, you've got that contract with yourself in terms of saying, right, I can see what I need to be doing, and look, you know, the reality to it is you're not going to make every single you're not going to make every single program, you're not going to make every kilometre that you say you're going to. But the reality to it is if you're hitting the majority of your head marks and you're able to achieve that progress consistently over that period of time, then you are, you know, you're going to be within the right ballpark. So you are, you know, not only committing to a long-term goal, but you're also committing to a long-term sort of process, which is really critical. But then what it also allows you to do is to bring that right back to like today, because the reality to it is that 10 months is a long time, and it's a long time to commit to, you know, training for something which can at times feel like a long way away. And we all know what it's like when you've got, you know, deadlines and stuff. You tend to leave stuff to the last minute, and with these things you can't get away with doing that. Like, this isn't, you know, this isn't the same thing as writing an essay the night before it's due in. I mean, look, the reality to it is there's no specific formula. Like, no one's turned around and said, oh, if you want to run 50 marathons in 50 states in 50 days, if you hit these metrics, you'll be able to do it. But I've basically based it around a pretty standard sort of 100-miler training program. So I'm looking at, and my personal attitude towards doing ultras in general is that if you can achieve the mileage you want to be achieving on race day in a week, that's a pretty good head mark. So for instance, if you're training for a marathon, personally, if you're only training to finish it, as opposed to training to get, you know, an elite time or something, I think personally that doing a, you know, 42.2 kilometre week is sufficient to, you know that you can do that distance of a week. And I don't really care in general terms how you break that down. You know, that's still going to involve going out and doing, you know, four decent 10Ks or something. And there are some systematic adaptations that are not going to happen if you're not putting in like one long run. So I wouldn't program it for someone whose first time it was, doing it quite that generically. But with the 50-50-50, you know, as a bit of a sort of point of difference from running a normal ultra marathon, like the furthest that we're going to have to run in one sitting is marathon distance. So like the reality to it is, although I probably will end up running, you know, a few decent distances in one sitting in the build up. So doing like, you know, I'll probably look at cracking 100k at some point, just otherwise, you know, you do it as an event and then you don't get bored with it. But the reality to it is, like, if I just did 4 marathons in a week, you know, hit my 100 miles for the week, like that for me is an extremely decent week of training. And like, from my point of view, there is a lot to be said for not overdoing it as well. And I think the temptation is that, you know, you look at that event in particular, like, you know, you are being asked to do 280 kilometers of a week. Well, 290 actually. So the inclination would be just to look at it in terms of the more distance I can do in training, the better. Whereas I think actually there's a lot to be said for doing enough but getting to the training line, getting to the starting line, like fit, healthy, uninjured, not so fucking bored with spending every hour running imaginable that, that you know, that you're already like physically and mentally cooked before you've even started. So yeah, you know, I mean, like I say, it's not an exact science, but like my take on it is that I think it's absolutely adequate to do enough. And like the reality to it is that you want to kind of make it as comfortable for yourself. Like, you know, these events, there's always a period of adaptation.
Keep what in? Sweat. Because you've not done that.
Mate, I think I've probably kept as much in as I've gotten out of, like fucking leaking. But no, it's just nice to do. It's nice to tab. Like, I like it. It's a nice. I think it's a good skill to have, to be able to move yourself around with a significant amount of weight on your back.